Okay, so I just wanted to share this morning um, one of my favorite parts of the whole of the Bible. It's John chapter 20, and you can see from this little subheading here where roughly in the story we're up to. So Jesus has been crucified already, and it's just tragic, really. It's tragic and it's very strange. You've got things like, you know, the veil in the temple is described as splitting into two and the sky going all dark. It's all very eerie and crazy. And then we come to this. It's almost like, you know, 3 days later, screen goes black, and here we are. On the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early while it was still dark. She saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb, so she ran to Simon Peter and to the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." At that, Peter and the other disciple went out, heading for the tomb. The two were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and got to the tomb first. Stooping down, he saw the linen cloths lying there, yet he did not go in. Then following him, Simon Peter came also. He entered the tomb and saw the linen cloths lying there. The wrapping that had been on his head was not lying with the linen cloths, but was folded up in a separate place by itself. The other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, then entered the tomb, saw, and believed. Isn't that beautiful? For they still did not understand the scripture that he, Jesus, must rise from the dead. Then the disciples went home again. But Mary stood outside facing the tomb, crying. As she was crying, she stopped to look into the tomb. She saw two angels in white sitting there, one at the head and one at the feet where Jesus' body had been lying. They said to her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "Because they've taken away my Lord," she told them, "and I don't know where they've put him." Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, though she did not know it was Jesus. "Woman," Jesus said to her, "why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Supposing he was the gardener, she replied, "Sir, if you've removed him, tell me where you've put him, and I will take him away." Jesus said, "Mary." Turning around, she said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. "Don't cling to me," Jesus told her, "for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and tell them that I am ascending to my Father and to your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them what he said to her. And I love this story because, there's lots of parts of the Bible where you go, "Oh, what does this mean for my life? What does that mean for my life? How does this apply?" But this, this is one of those stories where I just soak it in and enjoy it. Like the first day of the week, it's like fresh Monday morning or Sunday morning, whatever it is. And it's dark. While it's still dark, it's first thing. Maybe she hasn't slept very well. She's just grieving. She's still grieving. She comes to Jesus' tomb. And shock horror, she gets there, and the tomb is not a tomb anymore. The stone has been removed. It's open. I don't know if you can imagine the equivalent of going to visit, I don't know, it's like a huge coffin, I suppose, and the coffin lid is open, and there's no body in there. And she doesn't really take a long look. She just freaks out and runs, finds her mates from the town, Simon, and this other disciple, who's given himself bragging rights to be like the one who Jesus especially loves. She goes, finds them. He's like, "Come quick now. Look, we don't know who they are. Presumably the Romans, they have taken the Lord out of the tomb and we don't know where they have put him." So she thinks somebody has literally stolen the corpse of Jesus. That's probably her thought right now. So, Peter and this other disciple, they're up and they're headed for the tomb. they're running together. And again, this, this disciple who's writing this book out, he's bragging. He's a really fast runner. And he got to the tomb first. He just had to include that. And stooping down, he sees the clothes there, the clothes that Jesus would have been wrapped in. But, he may be a fast runner, but he's not the most brave. He doesn't go in. Simon, however, comes straight in, goes straight into the tomb, sees the cloths, sees the wrapping, and not only just sees it lying there, but folded up, like somebody's like come back and like cleaned up the mess. Like either the Roman or Jesus has like folded up his clothes. It's odd. The other disciple who'd reached the tomb first then comes in, and straight away it clicks. All these things that Jesus was saying about how he was going to rise again, that he sort of didn't really understand, it just all comes together. He comes into the tomb, he sees, he believes. Up until this point, they still did not understand when Jesus was saying that he must rise from the dead. But it's like he comes in, he sees the scene, and he's like, I know what happened here. And the disciples, they just rush off home again. And Mary's like, thanks. That's not what I wanted. And she just stays there. She's overwhelmed. She's crying. And as she's crying, she looks inside. You can just picture this, right? And she sees 2 angels there, which is, terrifying in and of itself, right? And they say to her, why are you crying? And she says, because somebody's stolen the body of my Lord. I'm sad. He's dead. And then his body has been taken away and I don't know where it is. And I wanted to come and see him, and be near him and grieve, and it's not here. And she turns around and, who's there? Jesus. Though she doesn't think it's Jesus. She thinks he's the gardener. She sees this guy who is like probably so familiar to her and yet like really unrecognizable. There's I don't know if you've ever had that experience of seeing someone, it's like that you know them, but you absolutely cannot place where they're from. And I imagine that seeing this man who's been resurrected from the dead, who already, Jesus is so mysterious and cool anyway, but she thinks it's the gardener. And he says to her, why are you crying? Who are you looking for? Obviously he knows. And she's flustered and she says, look, hey gardener, if you've taken him, tell me where you've put him and I will take him away. And this is, isn't this beautiful? Jesus said, Mary. He says her name. And as soon as he says her name, it's like that shepherd and the sheep. He knows her, and suddenly she hears his voice, and she knows him, and she recognizes him, and they reunite. And Jesus says, don't cling to me because I've not yet ascended to the Father, but go and tell everyone. Go find your brothers, go find the disciples, tell them that I'm ascending to my Father. And so she's got this renewed spirit. She leaves. I have seen the Lord. I mean, can you imagine? You go to a grave and you end up seeing 2 angels and the resurrection. It's just beautiful. I think it's just an amazing story just to imagine being Mary, or imagine being like the disciples at this time and how overjoyed they must have felt. Just wanted to share that with you. I hope those images, you could form those images in your mind. And particularly as we approach Easter, I just hope that as you pray, as you read the Bible, that you're experiencing this same kind of intimacy, right? Like when you think about what Jesus has done for you, I hope that it's like you hearing Jesus say your name and that you recognize him and you can say, I have experienced the Lord. I have seen him. I have spoken to him. I just pray that for you.